All right, thanks for tuning in. This is the new SC podcast. I'm Hunter Seisman here with Randall Adet Jr. We got the new CFP rankings. They are out 1 through 25. And what we're looking at here, no bias, no SEC bias, putting everything side by side, the data, the facts. Looking at these teams, got their ranked wins pulled up. Looking at, who's got the best wins right now in the country?
Yeah, I would say when I look at who has the best wins right now in the country, I'm going to go ahead and say Alabama. I think we talked about it before we started recording. You're looking at it. You got right now, when we think about Alabama, you beat Georgia. Georgia right now, I think, looks like the best in the SEC. You've beaten a ranked Missouri. You've beaten a ranked Tennessee. And I think you've beaten another ranked team as well.
Vanderbilt, Missouri, Georgia. Yeah. They have the most ranked wins. They do have 4. There could be a little bit of propping up a little bit. You can debate on whether or not Missouri or Tennessee, either of them, should necessarily be ranked in what they've done to deserve it. I'd look at a couple of these other teams as maybe having a couple better wins. One of the things that I like to consider is out of conference. It gives a good snapshot when we're doing these discussions on who's the best team, who's the best conference, this, that, the other, when you have teams who have played some out of conference games. So I'm looking at a team like Oklahoma, who picked up another really, really solid win last week, beating Alabama on the road, beating Tennessee, beating Michigan. That's huge when I think about who has the best wins, because they're not only doing it in conference, they're doing it out of conference. So losses aside, I would almost go to say that Oklahoma and maybe, Texas Tech could be in conversation for having some of the best wins.
Yeah, like you said, I like Oklahoma beating a good Michigan team. Yeah. And like you said, what I like about having good out of conference wins is that it has there's a litmus test. There's a way to measure how good you are in conference and out of conference. I like Texas Tech's resume. They beat a ranked Houston. Now Houston just jumped in the rankings. They beat a BYU team pretty handedly at home. We saw that a couple weeks ago. College Game Day went there, and they've beaten a Utah team who was top 10 at the time when they played them and is still in the top 15. They've handedly dominated their conference, and the Big 12 actually has some real teams. They're going to have another chance probably to beat a BYU team again here in the conference championship. So I like that pick as well for them having the best wins.
Yeah. And then, there's some other teams that maybe if you're not even looking at the ranked wins component, that they might be like, well, we're taking care of business. And that's your Texas A&Ms, your Ohio State, your Indianas. Again, to my point on out of conference, you got Texas A&M who traveled to start out the season, went into South Bend and beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame is someone that, whether I think that they're, worth anything or not, the committee does. They got them up there. So I think that should count for something, that Texas A&M went there and beat them. They beat Missouri on the road, 2 great road wins for Texas A&M. They do have Texas on the schedule next week. Pretty solid wins for them too.
Yeah, they definitely have some good wins. And so when you look at the wins for 1 through 3, Ohio State has a win over Texas, a win over a newly ranked Illinois once again. Indiana win over a ranked Illinois, and a ranked Oregon. Looking at those 3 teams, and again, Notre Dame and Missouri being ranked wins for Texas A&M, who do you think has the best ranked wins out of those 3 from a resume comparison perspective?
It's Texas A&M. Strength of record data would say number 1. You can see it here. Number 1 strength of record. They might have played a weaker in SEC conference, but they've taken care of business day in and day out. Even in the South Carolina game last week, not necessarily the best team, but they're taking care of business. So I would say that Texas A&M has the best wins among those teams. Illinois kind of just sneaking in there as a, potentially a prop up. Oregon, it's my opinion, I think ranked way higher than they should be. What is they're the only one on here with a blank spot. They got a blank spot.
No ranked wins at all. Who'd you beat? You lost by 10 to Indiana at home. So it's one of these things we talked about last year. Is the rankings about, not losing games, or is it about beating good teams? I would argue that Oklahoma should be ranked ahead of Oregon, considering they've beat Michigan. And we talked about it. I'll let you go ahead and say it.
Oklahoma right now is doing better in the Big Ten than Oregon is. They got a better Big Ten win than Oregon does.
Yeah.
Beating Michigan. Oregon, the only ranked Big Ten team that they've played, they lost to. Oklahoma can say they did better than that. So, I would put Oklahoma ahead of Oregon. I would probably put Alabama ahead of Notre Dame. Now, I know this is, if you're listening into this and you're not an SEC fan, you might think the SEC bias is coming in. I think that BYU should be ahead of Notre Dame. I think that Miami should be a little bit higher. And we can talk about that because right now the Miami Notre Dame game is playing no factor into where Miami's at. Why even play the game? I understand. I'm about to go down a whole rabbit hole, but I understand that teams get better and some teams get worse. But when we look at these out of conference games, what is the benefit of scheduling these games? So, I think that's the question to ask is like, does it even matter? Is the committee even taking into consideration these out of conference games that they're scheduling?
And it's interesting because, it mattered in the beginning of the season when the AP poll was the main poll. We saw Miami ranked higher. And then once Miami lost to SMU, once they lost to Louisville, all of a sudden it became, well, Notre Dame is ripped off 7-8 straight. They dominated against Pitt. The record still stands. They have the same record as Miami. And they both have 2 losses. I just don't really see why Miami is to this point. Even if you have Notre Dame ranked ahead of them, why is the gap so wide?
Yeah.
I don't really see why the gap is wide. I think, to your point, BYU should be higher. And then it's a question of if you value Notre Dame that much, maybe you put Miami ahead of Alabama.
If that is how you value a Notre Dame team, but they clearly don't because they value them because they're putting them high, but then they don't value them because then you don't put A&M. You don't value that win for A&M's schedule, strength of record number 1, rank 3.
It feels like it matters. It's valuable more to Notre Dame that they lost by 3 to A&M than the fact that A&M beat the number 9 team in the country. Because to me, if the number 9 win in the country mattered, that's the best ranked win out of all 3 teams that are in the top 3 outside of the Oregon win, which again, Oregon hasn't beaten anybody. So then to me, I would put Texas A&M at 2 or 1 because they have a better win from a team that has ranked wins, in this case, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Might have been hard to follow, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And something important, and we said this beforehand, as a committee criteria, because I know there might be people in the comments and I've seen the arguments online. Margin of victory is a removed factor when analyzing teams, especially looking at transitive property. When you're looking at these teams, you're trying to leave that out. You can take it as an eye test and say it that way, but when you make the argument around points differential, so when you're looking at A&M and South Carolina and things like that, you win the game. I don't see how that's any different than the final drive that Indiana needed to beat in an equally bad Penn State. So before people make that argument about Texas A&M, because I've seen it a few times.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And in some ways, though, I am impressed how Indiana is blowing out teams. They probably have an average margin of wins by 20 plus, but I think it has to pair with some quality wins. They have a couple quality wins. They're kind of fringe, though. The quality wins are to teams that we don't really know how good they actually are, with Illinois in this case and also Oregon. Going back to your point around, do out-of-conference games matter? I think they matter for Oklahoma. We're seeing them. They're getting some benefit of the doubt with that ranked win against Michigan. I don't think the committee is valuing the Notre Dame win enough for A&M. Any other games when you think about out-of-conference wins that matter or don't matter according to how the committee has ranked these teams?
Well, quickly, would Oklahoma be any lower if they didn't have that Michigan win? Like, I think they would still probably be at 8. Like, I don't think that they would put them behind Notre Dame had that Michigan game not happened.
It's a possibility. I don't want to disagree with you, but you're probably right.
I don't know. That's right. What I'm saying. Like,
it's more of like if they lost to Michigan, they for sure would be lower.
Right.
But you beat Michigan. I don't know. I feel like if Notre Dame had scheduled Michigan and had won, they might be ranked higher because they have someone else to compare it to. Okay, this team, Notre Dame beat Michigan and Oklahoma beat Michigan. So Michigan must be good. So they rank Michigan higher, therefore propelling Oklahoma and Notre Dame. Hypothetical, but shouldn't have to be all that.
Yeah. As far as other games, from a scheduling standpoint, I think, a lot of them are on here. I think, you even look at the possibility for Tulane here being the highest ranked conference champion. had their out of conference game with Ole Miss. That this Tulane team, where would they be at right now if they were 8-1 and didn't schedule that game with Ole Miss? So, you're
probably sitting at like 18, 17. I would imagine, maybe higher.
Will it matter? I don't know, but I think certain things are starting to be devalued as we look outside of conference, when I think that a lot of those things should be propped up. I think it's great for the sport. I love to see out of conference games. I think the opening weekend game with Ohio State and Texas, I love to see it. Oklahoma hosting Michigan, love to see it. The Miami Notre Dame game, the Texas A&M Notre Dame game, both years, even though it went A&M's way one time, they got it back this year. I think they're great for the sport. But
I'm gonna flip a question back on you. Do you feel like the committee is valuing the Florida State loss for Alabama, another out of conference game?
I think that's probably maybe the only reason that Alabama's behind Notre Dame. I mean, because there's really, if you look at the strength of record, you look at the ranked wins, you look at pretty much everything. If you want to compare Notre Dame and Alabama, the only thing that you could say should put Alabama behind Notre Dame is you got embarrassed by one of the worst teams in the ACC.
Yeah.
So I think they're taking that into consideration. So they're not valuing the wins that are happening, but what they're doing is when you lose, you're getting dinged for it.
Yeah. We saw it with the drop for Texas, right? But Texas has kind of been in the conversation of potentially being the sixth team to make it from the SEC. And I see one side, right? Their schedule is very hard. You got a Georgia, you beat a good Oklahoma team that's hot right now. Oklahoma team that just beat Tennessee and Alabama. You beat a Vanderbilt ranked team. But when you lose, you drop 6 spots to number 17. So you're right. I think the committee is really penalizing teams for losing, depending on how they lose and when they lose, which is another topic. Do you feel like the committee penalizes teams too much when they lose late in the season versus earlier?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, do I think it matters? Yes. Do I think that when you lose matters? I do. Should it? I don't know. I don't think so. That's a whole other thing we could dive into because, Notre Dame has gotten better. Miami has gotten worse. But then why play week 1? Why play week 2? Why play week 3? Should the season be 5 games long? I think everything should matter equally throughout the season.
I agree. I mean, when I look at the top 12 teams and what they're trying to do at the playoffs, I ultimately look at it as it's a resume competition. Who has the best resumes? Who has the best resume in their respective conference? Who has the best resume across the overall pool of teams? And your resume is a 4-quarter experience. There's 12 games in the season. You get four quarters. Obviously, Oklahoma looks really hot right now. They lost at the right time. Miami, to me, it's like they've done what they needed to do. They have a chance to win, coming up here against Pitt in a couple weeks. But I think they've done what they need to do to be ranked a little higher. Kind of shifting gears, when we think about where the bracket stands today and the top 4, do you feel like they got it right? Or do you feel like the bracket looks good?
Yeah, bracket looks right. I mean, you could make the arguments around a couple teams with the Oregon, Oklahoma, the Notre Dame, Alabama, whatever. I don't think it's, shifting too much. I think one of the issues there is that you look at a team like Oregon getting a home, where some of the teams that I think behind them should be higher, potentially getting a home. It's all going to change. I've said it every week. It's less about where the things stand now, but more about how the committee is valuing it and what you can allude for future weeks based on these things. We have so many games still to be played. Texas A&M plays Texas. Georgia plays Georgia Tech. It's a big game. Oregon plays USC. Those are 2 teams in the top 15. That's an upcoming game this weekend. So a lot of things will shift. Oklahoma has 2 hard games. They will play a ranked Missouri this weekend and then play an LSU team to finish the season. So there's going to be a lot of things that still could potentially change here.
I think one thing that'll be interesting is, and I was telling my girlfriend this, I think that Georgia has an opportunity to beat a ranked Georgia Tech team last week of the season, deservingly be in the top 4, and probably skip out on the SEC championship game and still get a bye week. So realistically get like an extra 2 weeks off. And I think it'd be justified because of the amount of ranked wins they have on the season with the ranked Georgia Tech, a ranked Alabama, a ranked Ole Miss, a ranked Tennessee, and rank Texas.
Yeah. If A&M wins out, Alabama wins out, and then there's a couple other things that need to happen to make that a case. Yeah, it would be a Georgia team that gets a bye and misses the SEC championship. Now, I want to play in the SEC championship. I want to win a trophy.
Yeah.
I want to play in it. So all this talk online about I don't want to play in the conference championship game. Come on, man. It's a trophy. It's a trophy for your school. Like, I don't know where this came from. I don't know how this started. I don't like it. So
yeah,
play in the game. You want to win. You want to win. Like, why? Like, what kind of competitiveness is that where you're looking so forward to the playoffs that you're willing to miss your conference championship and let it go to a school that you don't like?
Yeah, and if you ask Kirby Smart, I'm sure he would say he wants to play in it. I think in this particular case, with the way the season's gone, that's how it might play out for Georgia.
Yes,
I'm very confident they want to play in it, and I'm 100%, and I'm with you where it's like the SEC every year says how great they are. We talk about the SEC. If you're the best conference, why wouldn't you want to play in the best conference championship and say, I'm the best team in the best conference, and I'm going to get it done on the field?
Yeah. I mean, it's a byproduct of the expansion to where we're letting teams who are maybe not necessarily deserving. Like, do you deserve to be number one team in the nation if you aren't the number 1 or 2 team in your conference? And that's where the deserving word comes in, and where people, where you got this idea from that I don't have to play in the SEC championship. I'll still make the playoffs and, make a run. But that's a whole other conversation, looking here at what we got, what we got ahead of us.
Yeah. I mean, kind of keeping it, looking at it full circle, SEC right now has got 5 teams in. ACC will probably get 1 team in. If the season was to end today, the ACC championship would be Georgia Tech versus Virginia. The winner of that game would make the playoffs. The committee clearly values Tulane over JMU. Tulane, playing in what seems to be a more higher ranked conference, USF receiving votes, other teams in that conference receiving votes. And then the Big 12, I would argue, could potentially deserve 2 teams to get in. I think BYU makes the conference championship, and Texas Tech is obviously rolling. My one gripe is, where do you fit in a BYU? Maybe you put them ahead of Bama. And then from a ACC perspective, it's unfortunate that they may not get the best representative of the conference according to the committee if it's between UVA and Georgia Tech and the championship.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, value in Miami over those 2 teams, but because of the conference layout. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Which goes back to your point of do out of conference games even matter? Because Georgia Tech didn't really test themselves out of conference.
Yeah.
And UVA, they played out of conference game against NC State and lost.
Georgia Tech will.
Yeah, they will. True.
But yeah, it's all interesting. You can do this for hours, looking at these teams, and no one's going to be happy any week. Right now, just wanted to look at who has the best win, who has the best wins. I think you could make a case for a lot of different teams. Texas Tech, Georgia, Oklahoma having 3, Alabama having 4. We'll see what happens with Missouri. Missouri's on here a lot. They'll play Oklahoma this weekend. If they lose, that'll take Missouri out of the contention, I'm sure, for a ranked spot. So it wouldn't add to Oklahoma's resume. But yeah, this is what we got. Let us know.
And then Oregon's got USC. So Oregon can get their first quality win coming up here this weekend in Eugene.
Yeah, their first quality win, week 13. It's great. That's Big Ten football for you. This is the new SEC podcast. Let us know who your best team on here is, who has the best wins of the season so far. Let us know what you think. Do out of conference games matter to the committee? Do you think that they should continue on? Should they evaluate those differently? Let us know what you think. As always, we talk college football here. Don't miss it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. I'm Hunter Ziesman. He's Randall Ledet Jr. And until next time.